This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive.
Hi everyone, this is Striker and welcome to episode number 7 of my Redout Advanced Strategy Guide series. If you enjoyed that introduction and found it to be entertaining and humorous, I would strongly urge you to check out the weekly wall grind event that we hold every Saturday at 7 p.m. UTC. Myself and a number of other community members get together to have online races and always have a great time, so come join us. Anyway, today's track is Voxel, which is my most recent world record and one that I was able to obtain by a mere 0.003 of a second. So when I talk about the strategies for this track, just keep in mind that there might be some better ways to approach certain corners, and you might even be the one to discover them in the future. So as we see right here on the screen, this is the midpoint of the track just after the main jump. And what I want you to do in preparation for the time trial lap is to land and take a long sloping right-hand turn, making sure to stay very close to the second barrier in that turn. So if we watch as we set up for it, barrier number 1 is here on the right. We don't need to be too concerned about that one. Create a little bit of a wall bounce. But make sure when we come around here, we snake pretty closely. Now right from here, if you do this properly, you will be able to take a very direct line straight this way, if you can see my mouse, towards the starting line. So from here, what I want you to do is apply some of those micro boosts to try and get your speed high before we actually get to the starting grid. So right there. Now, if you do this properly, you should have most of your boost gauge available, and that is so we can create about a 1/3 drain as we cross that starting line. If we do that properly, you'll be able to elevate your speed above 1,300 kilometers per hour, which will shave off an important amount of time as we move into this first chicane and then subsequent left-hand turn. So let me play that again in real time. Watch how I apply the micro boosts. Micro boost, and then yep, right there. See that little bit of a drain? And now I can slope right through to this first chicane. As you cross here, I recommend that you stay very close to the right side barrier, and that will prevent you from having to steer to correct your alignment, and it will also allow you to just slightly clip the right-hand edge of the boost pad with your ship. Now, it doesn't look like I hit the pad, but based on the invisible collision box, you actually will have hit that boost pad. If you do this, you will also position yourself far to the right, which will allow you to cut this turn a little bit more closely, instead of having to really steer in order to navigate into this wall bounce. Now, I've tested a number of different cadences when it comes to the turbo boost after the wall bounce, and it seems to be the best option to try and boost immediately. So watch how I hit the wall and immediately boost. If you delay the boost, It is true that you will be able to obtain a slightly higher top speed in this next loop and straightaway, but it will have the negative effect of preventing you from boosting as much regularly later on in a lap, because you have to let your gauge recharge before your next turbo spot. So after we hit that immediate boost, I want you to try to align as straight as possible, once again clipping the right edge of that boost pad and then driving through the straightaway to the middle. Now after we hit this second pad, I want you to be cognizant of where you are on the track. Notice this is the middle line and I am a little bit to the left of the middle. And that is because we have an upcoming right-hand turn here that I need you to be able to slope through. If you are further to the right, you're going to have to steer through it. But from here, I can use the natural inclination of the track to help me glide right into this apex. I'm going to stay pretty close to the barrier. Now I've tested it closer, but here's the problem if we get too arcing and too sloped into that turn, is that you end up flailing a little bit more to the left here, and you might even hit this left side barrier. If you do it properly, we should just be able to skirt right next to the barrier on the left. And then from here, watch this in real time, how I'm able to create separation from the track and fly to cut that entire left to right turn. So look at this position one more time. I set myself up, I go through the apex of the turn, I create separation, and I hold my vehicle angle very straight as I cross this gap. If you find this to be a little bit risky, you can take the track as intended. You can ride the downslope into the left-hand turn and back right, but the problem will be you'll never get a top time in time trials. If you are way ahead in a race and you want to play it a little bit safer, that might be an option. Now, a couple things. When you are practicing this particular maneuver, you should be hitting the left side barrier in practice just to get an understanding of how far left you need to be to actually leave the track surface. Once you get better, we start to figure out how to not hit but still stay left. Based on the way the physics work in Redout, if you don't physically separate and leave the track, you won't necessarily fly off of this downward slope, you'll stay stuck to it. And that's going to lead you to potentially bounce into this bottom railing. Now once we do this, this is a big time save. I am then going to be watching for another exit off of the next jump, very close to the right barrier. So from here, look how far I am on the left side of the track after I landed, and now I'm sloping very far to the right. And that is because I am preparing myself here for a really, really large jump cut through this chasm. Now for newcomers to this cut, there's a couple of things we want to consider. The first is that there is a lot of visual obstruction. So the angle that you take into the jump is very important for positioning yourself as we get to the end. Secondly, I want to point out some of the visual landmarks that we can use to take this more successfully. So for the first third, right about here, I want you to see how I can see some daylight on the back of the track to the left, if you see my cursor. And through the middle of the ship, you can see some of that track upcoming. What I do from here is I draw two lines in my head, and I want to try and split the lines. So I talked about this in my asteroids lab, using two perspective landmarks and then drawing your middle. So my middle is about here. From there, the next thing I'm going to do once I clear here is I start to see a few rings. So notice I can see this ring here and I can see this one. So from where I just showed that approach, this is going to be the second ring on that track, and this is the third one. I want you to land in between the third ring and the fourth ring. So right there, you see how I did that? So I found my position where I can land as close to getting killed as possible on the plane while still taking an effective landing. Once you do that, you'll be in position for another wall bounce and a basic direct line through the finish. And that's pretty much a dead sprint. So I'll watch that again in real time. I'll bring it back to the jump. The other thing that I found to be very effective is to not try and slope from left to right and turn in the air to land more cleanly on the landing. I want you to fly very direct. Just place yourself into that wall. What happens here is you'll see your speed is way down. So I'm at 224, and that's why it's imperative that we have saved enough turbo boost to immediately hit off the wall and fly to the finish. If you delay that boost, you'll have more time in your lap at the speeds of 200, 300, 400 as you're accelerating, which is going to take your time away, especially in a track that is only 23 seconds long. Last thing is there is a small cut as this track slopes down. So if you see I'm a little bit more to the left, I could actually jump off of the track and then re-land around here and still clip the left side of the boost pad. I have found that in time trials, it doesn't seem to matter a whole lot. However, if you're near the beginning of the track and we're sloping through a turn and you decide not to take the cut, that shortcut actually becomes a little more effective because we can take it right here through the angle and actually leave the track. So that bit of falling that you get does increase your speed. It is then minimized by the landing on the upslope, but just something to consider. So overall, if I review this lap, just a few things to keep an eye on. Number one, this cut is quite risky, so in races, I usually just take the track like this. Make sure you're micro boosting where you still have most of your gauge, then you can then create a 1/3 drain here. If I cut this a little bit tighter, I feel like I could have improved some time, but that's a pretty good hold on that straightaway. This turn could probably be cut a little bit tighter as well. And other than that, I think I did this pretty well. This is a really good shortcut. See how direct I am? Direct at my wall bounce spot. And then just try to hold serve as you glide to the finish. So one of the shorter tracks in the game, and there isn't too much advanced strategy here at play, but I do hope this video helps you and look forward to bringing you more episodes in the future. Thank you.